I'm sitting in Holocaust history class, counting down the minutes we have left of the school day. It's last period, when suddenly there's a shatter in the glass. You don't think you come to learn about death to actually witness one. I see my friend, shielding herself with the books that they were just reading. You close your eyes and try to forget what is happening around you, but the shots are so loud that they sound like fireworks. And the screams. A boy calling out to his mother, telling her he may never see her again. Footsteps outside the classroom running. A girl banging on the door, just begging the people inside to let her in. You scramble for your phone and duck under the teacher's desk. Waterfalls are flowing down my cheeks. I just want this to be over as I clench the hand of a girl I hadn't talked to all year. I remember my family. The family who held my hand when I fell time and time again. The family who pushed my bike when I learned how to ride without the training wheels. The family who picked me up when I was down and cheered the loudest when I soared. The same family I don't remember saying, "I love you too," when I left for the bus this morning. I remember those in my classroom, those who will never go to the movies with their best friends again, never fall in love, never graduate, never be able to see what their own life had in store for them. Those whose seat will be empty when we return to school. I open my eyes, I look around, and I thought it was over. But it's not over, and it's never going to be over. When I'm 23 years old, I will wake up in the middle of the night remembering this horrific day. And every time I hear a firework on the 4th of July, I will hide under my sheets from the loud noise I once thought was happy. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, gunshots were fired at the safest high school in Florida. 17 dead. That's more kids dead than years I've been living. Kids are having more fear in their classrooms than they are learning. From Sandy Hook, where 6- and 7-year-olds were murdered in their kindergarten classrooms, too young to know what was going on, too young to understand what a gun was, too young to die. Why? Why have we read this narrative over and over again without getting bored? Why do we read the same story? Shot after shot, life after life, thought after prayer. I was inspired to write this poem after hearing about a shooting in Florida. This poem was a step for me, not only to convey a story that was not mine, but to spread the story and message for those who weren't already informed. Poetry helped me share that message, and poetry can help and inform everyone, including all of you here tonight. Now, most of you in the audience here tonight probably have watched all the talks, and they've all started at the beginning, but I would like to start mine at the end. I performed the poem that you just heard earlier at Bowery Poetry Club in New York City. I was definitely the only 14-year-old girl there, but the other poets didn't seem to be too bothered. Let me paint you a picture. When you walk into a place with people whom you had never met or you don't know, and where you've never been, it is actually a lot easier than you would think. Some of you here in the audience tonight know me, however, others know absolutely nothing. The only person that knew me in the audience was my mom, so I knew I had one fan. Now, think about it this way. I looked out into the audience and saw a woman who seemed like she really understood my poem. The whole feeling of me touching someone, just like other people had touched me, was amazing. After the performance, a poet came up to me who performed amazing that night, gave me a high five and said, "Hey kid, I really felt that. Thanks." That is when the ending had just turned into the beginning. This is slam poetry. I think we all know what poetry is, but let me reiterate. Poetry is literature that uses sound and images to express ideas and feelings, and it is written down for the readers to read it. Now, spoken word poetry is poetry in performance, and its rhythms and sounds affect the meaning of the words that you are speaking or that are being spoken. Now, most of you here in the audience tonight probably wouldn't realize how much poetry is shown in all of our everyday lives. When you listen to your favorite song on the car and sing at the top of your lungs, those lyrics that you know by heart are poetry. Think about it this way. Taylor Swift, for example. She writes all her poems about her ex-boyfriends. And Ed Sheeran, for example, writes poems about his best friends from home. Now, this is exactly what I wanted to do. Not necessarily write a poem about those things, but to touch someone like they did. Because somewhere out in the world, there is someone singing that song into a hairbrush, feeling the message, and getting over a breakup or singing with their best friends. And that is what the message was meant to be. Next, I started doing things that I thought I would never do before. I started to learn how to write poems precisely. First, what I did was buy a journal, because the first step was to write everything down. So when I bought the journal, I decided that it wasn't going to be your typical write down your secrets diary. I would write down every day of the week like anybody would. However, I would write down about important things in my journal. So I would write about politics, something that made me mad, something that I knew would speak to others and not just myself, like ice cream. Next, what I did was I watched YouTube videos on a bunch of slam poems and learned from other poets. With not only each poem, but from each poet, they taught me a new story and experience that they had and that touched me and that I felt deep within. After writing and watching and doing what I could alone, I decided to take it on myself to go to the National Poetry Slam Finals in New York City. This Poetry Slam was actually in other states and cities before this, so I actually lucked out that I got to go to this. So here's what happened. The morning of the Poetry Slam, I had asked my dad to go with me, and he did not want to go. Basically, he did not think that he would enjoy the Poetry Slam because he didn't understand what it was. He didn't think he would enjoy it. He just overall, he didn't want to go. So after begging my dad to take me, he reluctantly drove me there. And after the performance, he told me that it was one of the most moving, raw, and real things he had ever seen. I told you so, Dad. However, I have to agree with my dad's statement. It really was more emotional, raw, and real to see the poems in performance in person. Not that I any doubt before. Now, at the start of this talk, I told you all about my poetry performance at Bowery. And this is where that happens, where I took the leap of faith and performed my poem to spread the message to everyone in that audience and to all of you. Now, yes, writing and watching the poems taught me a great amount, but the real story to me was that I had learned from other poets and their stories, and now I had taught them through my own. Now, I want all of you right now to think of something of importance to you, personally, that has a message that you know you will remember, such as family, politics, anything that you remember. Once you have reached that, please take out a cellular device and raise it up in the air. And once you go on to your phone, search up Safari or YouTube or any app where you can go find a video. Once you reach that specific app, please search Slam Poem On and fill in the blank with what you were just thinking. Try something new. Search the slam poem. Maybe you will learn something new and experience something new that you have never learned before and that you will take with you for the rest of your life, just like I did. Thank you.